There is a sacred secret that the saints have known for centuries, one that transforms the very air you breathe as you sleep. Tonight, as you lay your head upon your pillow, beneath it rests not just cotton and fabric, but a gateway to divine protection that has shielded souls for over 1,500 years. The Medal of Saint Benedict, that small but mighty sacramental, carries within its blessed metal the power to transform your most vulnerable hours into a fortress of spiritual strength. You may wonder why the Church has blessed this particular practice with such reverence. The answer lies not in superstition but in the profound understanding that our souls never truly sleep, even when our bodies surrender to rest. In those quiet hours of the night when consciousness fades and dreams begin to weave their tapestries, our spirits remain exposed to influences both divine and diabolical. It is precisely in this moment of vulnerability that the Medal of Saint Benedict becomes your silent guardian, your spiritual sentinel standing watch over your soul. The tradition speaks of miraculous interventions, of nightmares banished, of evil influences repelled, and of peaceful sleep restored to those who had long forgotten what true rest meant. But beyond these testimonies lies a deeper truth. When you place that blessed medal beneath your pillow, you are not merely following a custom. You are participating in a sacred dialogue between heaven and earth, inviting the intercession of one of Christianity's greatest spiritual warriors into the most intimate space of your daily life. In his shadow, I find my rest. This becomes the prayer of your heart as you understand that true protection comes not from our own strength, but from placing ourselves under the mantle of divine providence. The medal beneath your pillow becomes a silent proclamation of faith, a humble acknowledgement that even in sleep, we depend entirely upon God's grace for our protection and peace. Saint Benedict of Nursia understood something profound about the nature of spiritual warfare that modern souls often forget. In the 6th century, as he established his monastic communities across Europe, he recognized that the battle between good and evil never ceases, not even during the hours when we believe ourselves to be at rest. His very medal, with its intricate symbols and abbreviated prayers, represents a synthesis of centuries of Christian wisdom about divine protection and the power of blessed objects to channel God's grace into our daily lives. The medal you hold in your hands carries inscriptions that are not mere decorations, but spiritual formulas tested by time and validated by countless miracles. The letters VRSNZMV, Vade retro satana, non mihi vana swadeus. Be gone, Satan, do not suggest vain things to me. Transform your sleeping space into a sanctuary where evil suggestions cannot take root. When placed beneath your pillow, these words become a continuous prayer rising from your subconscious mind to the throne of God, a spiritual incense that purifies the very atmosphere of your rest. Consider how Saint Benedict himself used the sign of the cross to shatter a glass that his nurse had accidentally broken, how his prayers could move stones and bend iron. The same spiritual authority that flowed through his hands now resides in the medal that bears his name and blessing. When the Church blesses this sacramental, it is not performing a mere ritual but channeling the same divine power that enabled Benedict to cast out demons, heal the sick, and provide protection for all who sought his intercession. In his shadow I find my rest unto becomes more than a prayer. It becomes a reality when you understand that the medal beneath your pillow connects you to an unbroken chain of saints and souls who have experienced the protective power of Benedict's intercession. Your bedroom becomes an extension of Monte Cassino, your pillow a altar where the ancient prayers of the Church continue their vigil throughout the night. Before we delve deeper into the mysteries of nocturnal protection, let your heart be moved to share this sacred knowledge with others who hunger for spiritual truth. The Church has always grown through the witness of the faithful, and your testimony about the power of Saint Benedict's protection can kindle hope in souls who have long struggled with restless nights and spiritual unease. Take a moment to comment below with these words: I believe in the power of Saint Benedict's protection over my sleep and my family. And subscribe to this channel so that together we might build a community of souls united in faith and mutual support. The saints understood that spiritual treasures are multiplied when shared, not diminished, As you learn about the sacred practice of placing the medal beneath your pillow, remember that countless brothers and sisters in faith are walking this same path of devotion, seeking the same divine protection, and experiencing the same miraculous peace that comes from trusting in God's providence. Your participation in this community of believers strengthens not only your own faith, but contributes to a network of prayer and protection that spans the globe. Think of how Saint Benedict gathered disciples around him, not to hoard spiritual wisdom, but to create communities where souls could support one another in their journey toward holiness. By engaging with this content, by sharing your experiences, and by encouraging others to discover these ancient practices, you become part of that same Benedictine tradition of spiritual brotherhood and mutual edification. Your witness becomes a light that can guide others out of the darkness of spiritual confusion and into the clarity of authentic Catholic devotion. In his shadow, I find my rest. And in sharing this shadow with others, you discover that divine protection grows stronger when embraced by a community of faith. The medal beneath your pillow becomes not just your personal shield, but part of a vast spiritual armor worn by all who place their trust in Saint Benedict's intercession and the Church's wisdom about sacramental protection. You close your eyes, each night believing yourself to be entering a realm of peace and restoration. Yet spiritual masters throughout the ages have recognized that sleep presents our souls with unique challenges and opportunities. In those hours when conscious prayer ceases and rational thought dissolves into dreams, our spirits become like ships without anchors, vulnerable to currents both divine and diabolical. The medal of Saint Benedict, placed beneath your pillow, with faith and reverence, becomes that spiritual anchor, ensuring that even in your deepest sleep, your soul remains tethered to the source of all protection and peace. The Church has long taught that the devil's influence often manifests most powerfully during the night hours, when our defenses are lowered and our ability to resist temptation or spiritual attack is diminished. Dreams can become battlegrounds, where old sins reassert themselves, where fears multiply beyond reason, and where the peace that should accompany rest is replaced by anxiety, terror, or spiritual confusion. It is precisely for this reason that the wisdom of our ancestors in faith developed practices like placing blessed objects near our sleeping bodies, creating a sphere of sanctification around our most vulnerable moments. Consider how many of the great saints experienced their most profound spiritual encounters during the night hours. Both divine visions and diabolic assaults often came when the body was at rest, but the soul remained active in the spiritual realm. Saint Benedict himself understood this dynamic, which is why his rule includes specific provisions for night prayer and spiritual vigilance. The medal that bears his name carries this same wisdom, extending his protective presence into your personal sleeping space and ensuring that the spiritual vigilance he practiced continues to guard your rest. In his shadow, I find my rest. Takes on profound meaning when you realize that true rest is not merely the absence of physical activity, but the presence of divine peace. The medal beneath your pillow creates a sanctuary where your soul can truly rest, protected from the spiritual turbulence that so often disturbs our sleep and leaves us exhausted despite hours of supposed repose. In this sacred practice, you discover that rest itself becomes a form of prayer, a surrender to divine providence that transforms even your unconscious hours into time spent in God's protective embrace. Every element of Saint Benedict's medal tells a story of divine power translated into human language, of ancient prayers compressed into symbols that carry the full weight of 15 centuries of Christian faith. When you place this medal beneath your pillow, you are not simply positioning a piece of metal in your sleeping space. You are establishing a prayer altar that operates continuously throughout the night, where abbreviated Latin phrases become perpetual intercessions rising to heaven on your behalf. The inscription, Crux Sancti Patris Benedicti, the cross of our Holy Father Benedict, transforms your pillow into a foundation built upon the cross of Christ, channeled through the intercession of one of Christianity's greatest spiritual warriors. Each letter of the alphabet that appears on the medal represents not mere decoration, but a compressed prayer, a spiritual formula that has been tested by centuries of use and validated by countless miraculous interventions. These are not magic words but sacred words that derive their power from the faith of the Church and the intercession of the saints. The prayer, Vade retro Satana, begone Satan, becomes particularly powerful during the night hours when evil influences often attempt to penetrate our consciousness through dreams, suggestions, and spiritual disturbances. Placed beneath your pillow. This prayer creates a continuous spiritual barrier, a wall of divine protection that operates even when your conscious mind is not engaged in active prayer. It is as if Saint Benedict himself stands guard over your rest, wielding the same spiritual authority that enabled him to cast out demons and protect his monastic communities from every form of evil. In his shadow I find my rest gains new depth when you understand that the shadow is cast, not by a man long dead, but by the living intercession of a saint whose prayers continue to operate through the blessed sacramentals that bear his name. The metal beneath your pillow becomes a conduit for these ancient prayers, ensuring that your sleep is accompanied by the continuous intercession of one who dedicated his entire life to the pursuit of holiness and the protection of souls seeking God. Throughout the long history of the Church, countless souls have discovered the transformative power of placing Saint Benedict's medal beneath their pillows, and their testimonies form a chorus of praise that echoes across the centuries. Mothers have reported that children who once suffered from nightmares and night terrors began sleeping peacefully when the blessed medal was placed beneath their pillows. Priests have documented cases where individuals tormented by spiritual oppression found immediate relief through this simple act of faith and devotion. The historical records of Benedictine monasteries contain numerous accounts of miraculous protection associated with the medal. During times of plague and warfare, communities that maintained devotion to Saint Benedict's medal often reported supernatural protection from harm. Travelers who carried the medal spoke of safe passages through dangerous territories, while those who placed it in their homes testified to peace and harmony, replacing discord and fear. These are not mere coincidences, but manifestations of the spiritual principle that blessed objects used with genuine faith become channels for divine grace and protection. You might wonder whether such testimonies represent mere psychological comfort or genuine spiritual intervention. The Church's wisdom teaches us that the two are not mutually exclusive. God often works through natural means to accomplish supernatural ends. The peace that comes from sleeping with Saint Benedict's medal beneath your pillow may manifest as improved sleep quality, reduced anxiety, and increased spiritual sensitivity, but these natural benefits flow from the supernatural source of divine protection operating through the intercession of the saints. In his shadow I find my rest becomes not just a personal prayer, but participation in a great chorus of testimonies that spans 15 centuries. When you place that medal beneath your pillow tonight, you join your voice to this choir of witnesses, adding your own experience to the great treasury of faith that validates the continued relevance of these ancient practices in our modern world. The Church teaches us that sacramentals, unlike sacraments, depend significantly upon the faith and devotion of those who use them. The Medal of Saint Benedict placed beneath your pillow is not a magical charm that operates automatically, but a blessed object that becomes a channel for divine grace when approached with genuine faith, proper intention, and sincere devotion. Your spiritual disposition when you place the medal beneath your pillow determines not whether God's power is present, for it always is, but whether you are properly disposed to receive the graces that flow through this ancient channel of blessing. Faith in this context means more than mere intellectual assent to the medal's power. It requires a heart that truly believes in the intercession of the saints, a mind that accepts the Church's teaching about the efficacy of blessed objects, and a will that surrenders personal control in favor of divine providence. When you place the medal beneath your pillow with such faith, you are not performing a superstitious ritual, but engaging in a profound act of trust that opens your soul to receive the protection and peace that God desires to give you through Saint Benedict's intercession. Consider how your approach to this practice reflects your broader relationship with God and the Church. Do you place the medal beneath your pillow as a last resort when other solutions have failed? Or do you incorporate this practice into a comprehensive spiritual life that includes regular prayer, frequent reception of the sacraments, and genuine commitment to Christian virtue? The medal's effectiveness is enhanced when it becomes part of a holistic approach to spiritual growth rather than an isolated attempt to solve specific problems through supernatural means. In his shadow, I find my rest becomes a declaration of faith that encompasses not just trust in Saint Benedict's protection, but confidence in the entire economy of salvation that God has established through his church. The medal beneath your pillow becomes a symbol of your willingness to embrace the full richness of Catholic tradition, to trust in the wisdom of the saints, and to believe that God continues to work miracles in the lives of those who approach him with sincere faith and humble dependence. The Medal of Saint Benedict beneath your pillow achieves its greatest effectiveness when integrated into a comprehensive approach to spiritual protection that encompasses your entire living space and daily routine. The Church has always taught that authentic spiritual protection requires not just the use of individual sacramentals, but the creation of an entire environment saturated with divine grace through multiple channels of blessing and prayer. Your bedroom, transformed by the presence of the medal, becomes even more powerful when combined with other traditional practices that amplify its protective influence. Consider blessing your home regularly with holy water, ensuring that crucifixes are prominently displayed, and maintaining a practice of family prayer that sanctifies the atmosphere of your living space. The medal beneath your pillow operates most effectively within this broader context of spiritual vigilance, where multiple sacramentals work together to create an integrated system of divine protection. Your nightly rest becomes not an isolated moment of vulnerability, but part of a continuous cycle of prayer and protection that encompasses your entire day. The Church also encourages the faithful to combine the use of sacramentals with personal practices of virtue and spiritual discipline. The Medal of Saint Benedict beneath your pillow will not protect you from the consequences of deliberately chosen sin or spiritual negligence. Instead, it works most powerfully in the lives of those who are genuinely striving for holiness, who maintain regular confession and communion, and who seek to align their will with God's will in all aspects of their lives. In his shadow, I find my rest becomes not just a prayer for nighttime protection, but a commitment to living under divine protection throughout all the hours of your day. The medal beneath your pillow serves as a reminder that the same God who protects your sleep also desires to guide your waking hours, and that the spiritual vigilance symbolized by Saint Benedict's intercession should characterize your entire approach to Christian living. The Church maintains a careful balance between encouraging devotion to blessed objects like the Medal of Saint Benedict and warning against the superstitious misuse of such sacramentals. When you place the medal beneath your pillow, your motivation must be grounded in authentic Catholic teaching, rather than magical thinking or desperate attempts to manipulate divine power for personal ends. True devotion to sacramentals flows from humility, faith, and proper understanding of how God works through the material world to convey spiritual graces. Superstition enters when we begin to attribute automatic power to the medal itself, independent of God's will and our own spiritual disposition. The medal and inscriptions possess no inherent magical properties. Their effectiveness comes entirely from the blessing of the Church, the intercession of Saint Benedict, and God's desire to work through material objects to touch our material existence. Your approach to placing the medal beneath your pillow should reflect confidence in God's power and goodness, not anxiety about performing the practice correctly, or fear about what might happen if you forget to do it on a particular night. The Church also warns against treating sacramentals as substitutes for the sacraments, or as shortcuts to holiness that bypass the necessary work of conversion and spiritual growth. The Medal of Saint Benedict beneath your pillow cannot replace regular confession, mass attendance, personal prayer, or the practice of virtue. Instead, it should enhance these fundamental aspects of Catholic life, providing additional support and protection for souls who are genuinely committed to following Christ through his Church. In his shadow, I find my rest expresses not magical dependence on an object, but trustful dependence on the God who works through blessed objects to care for his children. The medal beneath your pillow becomes a sign of your mature faith, sophisticated enough to embrace the Church's sacramental vision while avoiding the spiritual immaturity of superstitious practice. As we conclude this sacred journey into the mystery of Saint Benedict's protection over your sleep, let your heart be stirred by the recognition that the rest you seek each night is ultimately a foretaste of the eternal rest that awaits all faithful souls in the kingdom of heaven. The Medal of Saint Benedict beneath your pillow serves not only as protection for your temporal sleep, but as a reminder that your ultimate destination is that place where there will be no more tears, no more suffering, and no more need for protection, because you will dwell forever in the direct presence of the source of all peace and security. Saint Benedict himself understood that every moment of earthly life, including our hours of sleep, should be lived in preparation for eternal life with God. His medal, placed beneath your pillow with faith and devotion, transforms your bedroom into a school of sanctity, where even your unconscious hours become opportunities for spiritual growth and deeper union with divine will. The peace you experience through this practice is a participation in the peace of Christ, a sharing in the tranquility that flows from the heart of God into the hearts of all who trust in His providence. Tonight, as you place that blessed medal beneath your pillow, do so with the understanding that you are not merely seeking a good night's sleep, but participating in the great movement of human history toward its eternal fulfillment in God. Your rest becomes a prayer, your trust becomes worship, and your dependence on Saint Benedict's intercession becomes a declaration that you belong not to this world of anxiety and fear, but to the kingdom of peace and love that has been prepared for you from the foundation of the world. In His shadow I find my rest. And in finding that rest, you discover that you have been found by the love that moves the sun and the stars, the love that watched over Saint Benedict in his cave at Subiaco, the love that continues to watch over you as you surrender each night to the mystery of sleep under the protection of heaven's most vigilant guardians. May your rest be holy, your dreams be blessed, and your awakening be filled with gratitude for the God who never sleeps in His care for those who call upon His name. Dear soul, as you have journeyed through these sacred mysteries, your heart has been prepared for a moment of decision that will transform not just your nights, but your entire relationship with the divine protection that surrounds you. Tonight, do not merely go to sleep, go to prayer. Take your Medal of Saint Benedict, hold it in your hands, and make this commitment. Lord, I place this blessed medal beneath my pillow as a sign of my complete trust in your protection and my desire to live every moment, waking and sleeping, under the shadow of your love. But let this be more than a single act of devotion. Let tonight be the beginning of a new chapter in your spiritual life, where you embrace fully the Church's wisdom about sacramental protection and allow these ancient practices to transform your daily routine into a continuous prayer. Subscribe to join others who are walking this path of deeper faith. Share your testimony of God's protective power with those who need hope. And commit yourself to becoming a living witness to the truth that our God is indeed a God who watches over those who trust in Him. The medal awaits your faith. The protection awaits your trust. The peace awaits your surrender.